So, after 30-something years, this movie is still considered, by me and many, as the best zombie film ever made. And there's been so many zombie films and shows. Why do you think this one really stands out and still is loved by so many people?
Because we're in it.
Well, that is a good answer.
Well, I think the fact that, I don't know how many of you are under 35. Okay, there are
33.
Okay, well that's close. That's still under 35 according to recent math. This film was made 35 years ago. It was released in 1978 in Europe, 1979 in the U.S. So the fact that even though this is not necessarily your generation's film, so many people have come to love and appreciate what this film is in terms of the characters, in terms of the story, the social commentary, and everything else, in a way that was groundbreaking at the time, and I don't think it's quite been duplicated by any other film.
Good answer. Anyone else, anything?
I think it has that timelessness about it, you know, that has that sort of 70s.
Good idea, that's right.
Anyway, it has that 70s feel to it. It's hard to explain exactly what that is, but it has that sort of timelessness, and when you watch the film, it's as if that time period, that door is opening, and you get to feel that time period. You know, no cell phones.
Right.
The electronic age is coming, but it's not there yet. So, how you deal with, you know, this apocalypse, whatever you want to call it, is done much differently at that moment. And so all the conventional things and stereotypes that we have today don't exist yet. So it's kind of like looking back in time just before all that happened.
Well, one other aspect just to mention is that the characters in Dawn of the Dead are not Power Rangers, they're not Transformers, they're not super characters. They're the average people that you can identify with. And I think that is really what carries it. It's not that the zombies are all scary people from somewhere else. Any one of them could be any one of us.
That's a good point. That's a good
You know, along those lines, did any of you have any input on what the zombies would look like, what the characters of the zombies would be?
Not really. I mean, you know, how I got my role was they had a nurse's outfit in wardrobe. So George says, Sharon, I want you to wear the nurse's outfit. You're going to be the nurse. I said, okay, that's how my character came by.
I already had a bald head. So I guess it must have, you know, triggered something in George. He was looking for some different, types of zombies. And they called me up one day and said, well, we have an idea in mind for a zombie. I don't know if you want to do it or not, but it has something to do with, you know, another religion and that. If you didn't feel like you wanted to make that statement, then understand it, find something else for me, because they had already told me they wanted to use me in that. I said, what is it? He said, well, we want you to be a Hare Krishna. I said, all right. they were kind of annoying back then. A lot of you don't really remember what the whole Hare Krishna thing was, but there was many of them, and they would be on the streets, street corners, and you're trying to get back to work, and they'd be interrupting you, and you know, be at train stations and airports and stuff. And,
They would be dressed just like
exactly like this.
Did you get any backlash from them?
I heard that the production company got a letter from the International Society of Christian Consciousness objecting to the fact that one of their devotees was being portrayed as a zombie in the movie, but I never saw the letter.
Yeah.
Probably on eBay.
Someone out here has it. Now, how did you get involved with the movie, Ken?
I auditioned, I was in a play in New York, in the East Village of New York off Broadway. And one of the actors came in one afternoon, I think it was a matinee. So Sunday we said, getting made up, sitting for another pick up tickets. He said, hey, we need somebody like you in a film. They're auditioning guys that have similar to your type. And I said, oh, well, that's great. That's fine. You want the information? I said, sure, why not? His name was Ron Terry. That was and I called, I Rubenstein the next day or a couple days later. That was Sunday, probably Monday or Tuesday. Went up, immediately recognized the Eraserhead poster on the wall, framed, and Night of the Living Dead poster frame. I knew Dwayne Jones very well. I still didn't, I'm not putting two and two together. You know, I'm doing a play, I'm fairly new. I think I did a guest starring role in the Kojak, and then I did a film called Bingo Long Traveling All Stars and Motor Kings for Universal. And that was it. And then off Broadway. And that was all my film experience. So it was, I'm still not quite getting it. And I went in, met George, auditioned with, I auditioned with Scott, Galen, and David. And then 2 days later, 3 days later, they called me again and said, "We want you to come back and audition again." And that was maybe a week later. They called me 3 days later and said, "You come back." You called me on Wednesday. You come back on Friday and audition again. And I auditioned with 3 other individuals, another girl and 2 other guys. And then they called me, and I think 2 or 3 days after that, and said, you have the role. I didn't know which group we were, I was going to participate with, but it turned out to be Galen, Scott, and David. That's how I got it.
What about the casting for the zombies? How did that come about?
The casting?
Yeah.
I knew Tom Savini. We'd gone to school together, we worked in theater together, and he was in the Army for 3 years. I was in the Army for 3 years. Ended up back in Pittsburgh. Ran into Tom, and Tom said, "Jim, I'd like to have you as a role in a George Romero film." You know, George, 10 years ago, had done Night of the Living Dead, and everybody knew at that time what Night of the Living Dead was. So you have to understand that there's a certain cachet about that. You can get branded. You're in this really wild, bizarre, crazy, horrible kind of movie thing. And do you want to be associated with something like that? Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's open it up. You guys want to know what happened?
Yeah.
We got heat. We got plenty of it. We got some of the greatest reviews. We had Rex Reed. We had Roland Barrett and Cisco and Ebert all give us good reviews. And nonetheless, I had friends who said, "You're in that movie." I lost people that I thought were friends, and we never spoke again. I had a woman from the New York Times premiere night. After the premiere, and we went to the party afterwards, cornered me in the section of the room and asked me, "How do you feel about being in a film where they kill children?" We took a lot of heat. A lot of people didn't like it. It wasn't as popular as after years became. It was doing midnight showings with Pink Flamingos and Rocky Horror Picture Show. And a lot of you saw it, especially anybody over 40 here. Okay, so maybe some of you saw it. And so it took, it wasn't, a lot of people come down, they say, "Oh, we love it, it was a great show, and it's the greatest film ever." We're rated tops. In Japan, we're rated number 1 over Clockwork Orange, Star Trek, and many of the other films. This film is, and I had a friend, not a friend, but a guy, he's a European star. Out of Greece, he did a lot of Italian TV. His name is Yorgo Barages, but he's very handsome European leading actor. And I knew him for quite a while. And at one point, we were, with some group of people in someone's house, and we were talking about careers and what we were doing. And I had never really said that much to him about my career, and I think he presumed that much because he was certainly a leading man in Europe, and he was also, I think, Robert Redford did something called Panama or something with a Spanish title. I forget what it was. About 10 years ago, 15 years ago, he did, I can't think of what it is. It's like Cuba or something. He did this film, and this guy was going to be in it, but they replaced him or cut him out or something. Anyway, this guy looked at me and he said, and I said, well, I was in a thing called Dawn of the Dead. And he said, oh, okay. And I said, and so he says, well, and I thought, well, maybe you're from Europe. It was called Zombie. Oh! You're a zombie? Oh, man! Yeah, is that, you lost some weight, kid. You could be a leading man. So we got this thing. It traveled all over the place. A lot of people were influenced by it, but I guarantee you that, like you say, Jim, being a part of something like that, and that blood, that gore, I didn't think it played in the United States in the first place because of the blood and gore and it's in color. And a lot of people just took it, they didn't like it, they felt offended by it, they thought it might be morally not the film to see or to be a part of, and we took a lot of that kind of heat, a lot of people.
It almost came out with an X rating, didn't it?
It came out with no rating. It almost came out with X rating. It was initially no rating, but they couldn't, that was what, when I read the script, I said, and I knew Dwayne, and I knew Night of the Living Dead very well, and I knew Dwayne, I was a fan of Night of the Living Dead. And when I read the script, I said, this is not going to play Panama. I said, as far as I said, they're not going to let it in the country. And lo and behold, they did what they could to hinder it. Richard Rubenstein, Salah Hassanin, you remember Salah, right? He has the distributor. The distributors for Dawn. You guys okay. You didn't know the way down, but yeah, that's what distributors. Salah. Those guys did such a great job of distributing this film. It was in every drive-in, and the thing that was kind of crazy, people that you wouldn't think saw it and were, Richard had a press conference on Fifth Avenue. Now we know New York, and we're close to New York here, so everybody's got a New York thing. Fifth Avenue, Fifth Avenue, 53rd, 54th Street, Red Plush Hotel, out in with Rex Reed, with all of the major reviewers in the city, and probably many from around the world, for this film. I mean, they distributed it, they advertised it, they sold this film. It was something unique, and they sold it, and they did an excellent job. That's why we're here today, because people have seen this film only because it was really something exceptional for its time, and they did a great job of marketing. They marketed the hell out of it. What's his name? There's one more thing I like. What's his name? Bob Fosse. Remember Bob Fosse? You remember Bob Fosse, right? Bob Fosse. Anybody remember Bob Fosse out there? Guys, remember Bob Fosse? I'm in the airport, and I had just left, come to California on the heels of Dawn of the Dead, and Scott Reiniger had just come before me. Scott Reiniger was working at a limo company, because he's just getting there, he's just trying to establish himself, he needs a job, right? And when I got there, I called Scott, I said, what do you know? He said, I'm working with a limo company. I said, oh, I'm going to need something too. He said, oh, well, why don't you come over here? Because they could probably need to use an extra driver. So I went over, and for about 6 months, I drove a limo. First got to California. And I'm at the airport, LAX, and I got to pick up this gentleman, Fosse. I'm not putting two and two together, it's not Bob, it's Fosse. So I got to, so I walk up and he says, and Bob Fosse comes out, and we're in the middle of the terminal, and he says, Ken Forey, I'm your biggest fan. My God, man, my girlfriend and I, we watched you at the Westchester, New York, drive-in, and man, you're the best. And he said, what are you doing here? said, what? She said, I'm picking you up. What do you mean you picked me up? Pick me up. I said, I'm driving you. He said, you gotta be kidding me. I said, no. I said, oh man. So I took him to his hotel. That night, all that jazz. You remember all that jazz? That's when they premiered. I drove Bob Fosse and Daniel Melnick, who was a big producer at Sony or 20th Century Fox. I can't remember which. I think Sony was maybe was Metro Goldwyn Mayer at the time, maybe back in those days. Anyway, so I picked them up and their dates, and I drive them to all that jazz. They go, they give me a seat so I can see it in the back. I park the car, you know. I'm driving them home, and eventually it gets quiet in the car. Bob says, Ken, after a role like that, after a performance like that, how do you feel about driving a limousine in LA after that? I said, pretty fucking shitty, Bob. That's the story.
You mentioned the movie being called Zombie in Europe. What are you guys' opinion on that cut of the film where a lot of the humor is cut out?
I don't like it too much. I've seen it a few times. I have a copy of it. I mean, it's, it's still Dawn of the Dead. It's just that the more humorous moments as far as the music track. It's like the music track's more Americanized. And the other track is all Goblin, Dario Argento's, the band that played the soundtrack. Some of that's in the American versions, but it's all in the European version. It's just, even the sound effects seem odd. Like I feel like they're in the wrong place. Because once you've seen the film several times, it has sort of a natural rhythm and a pacing to it. And when I see the European version, I just I don't like it as much. Because I can be objective. It's not the film I know anymore. It's like this other film. So entertainment-wise, if I'd seen the other version first, I wouldn't have liked it as much as George's version, because that was Dario Argento's version, who was the main producer on the film.
Yeah, one other thing about that was it was only like, what, half a dozen years ago or so, Ken and Lenny and I were doing a convention in Germany, and I realized my scenes had been cut out. I didn't even appear in that version. Yet everybody there was a fan. They'd seen the American version. From all over the country, these guys and gals would come in the black shirts and red. They had Zombie Squad. Zombie Squad. And I said, wow. It's like, you imagine a room like this full of people with Zombie Squad shirts on. It's a little intimidating. They were just fans of zombie movies. So they had all the cuts. And they preferred the American cut, the George Romero cut. But to find out that I wasn't there, but they all knew the scenes, they knew everything that had been cut out in the European version. That was amazing.
They couldn't get into Germany for a long time.
Oh yeah, that was
it was banned in Germany.
Banned in Germany.
So like until when we were there, it was still banned in Hamburg. I mean, they got it in bootleg, and they were the black market, but it was still banned when we were there. I mean, that's how they got to see it. They got.
And about a year before that, Frank Koenig, who did a book in German on the George Romero films, that book was banned.
Yeah, right,
Yes,
right.
So that's only half a dozen years ago or so.
Yeah.
They would actually go to the conventions and go through the DVDs, the vendors, and if they found Dawn of the Dead in there, they'd pull it out.
Can you believe that,
In
guy?
German.
Yeah.
You're hearing some things you never heard before.
Told you. Not everybody like this, though.
They're all about the sex and not the violence. Now it doesn't matter. It's kind of, we're lessening the grip on that, and they're loosening up on the violence side.
Split on by now, man. What's out there now? Is that any hold your gun, shoot your gun? You can let the horse out of the barn, whatever the hell you want to say. But it's everything goes now, baby. Everything.
Well, talking about,
I'm scared. I thought I was pretty adventurous and risky with this. And you look at things like Greasy now, you say, Okay. Well, this brings it up another notch, doesn't it? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
You were saying.
They much rather hear you.
Another notch without the quality.
Yeah. You know, I just say to that, it's their world now. You know, yeah, most of the people should be filmed now, and most of the people who are running the networks, who are in the studios, who are producing what you see on television and film, for the most part, are young. And not, I would say, probably, if the oldest is in their 50s at the most. You know, most of the people are young, in their 20s, 25, 26, 27-year-old kids. So these people, their generation asks for something different, and then they produce it for them. So it's, you can't really, you know, my wife, she sits there and says, oh, this stuff is crazy, or it doesn't work, or they don't have the imagination, and we're on this, and it's I'm sick of this, I'm sick of that, I'm sick of that. But it's, you know, this is, time moves on, people, the different generations take over, and the generations now, that some of you people here are in your 40s and 50s, your kids, you know, they're what are you going to say when they start producing what they're going to produce? Hello. You're going to sit back and say, my God, what is this? You know, how do I grasp it? And that's how you know, from Dawn of the Dead to what they, I mean, we were considered, but just bad taste. Bad taste, I guess, you know, for a lot of people. We were considered something that was way out there, extreme.
It's considered ultra-violent.
Ultra-violence, ultra-violent. And now look what you got. You know, I mean, what's it going to be in another 20, another 10? You know, I mean, it's really, it's changed phenomenally from the last, hell, I thought they shoot horses was psychologically damaging. They shoot horses, don't they? You know that film, guys? Yeah. They shoot horses, don't you? Oh, yeah. I thought that was psychologically done. It shows you how far back I'm in the time. I can't watch that. So they got out there now.
Well, I can't believe I go to these conventions. 3-year-old kids dressed as zombies. I mean, when I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to watch anything that was close.
No, they've got people that are doing it to show the kids that are 6, 9, 7, or that people. And it's strange. You notice when they come up to your team, that young, and what do you say? I don't mean to offend anybody that's parenting out here, and you have kids or anything like that. But for me, it's kind of, I think, what are you doing showing your kid this film at that age, at 6, at 5? You know, at 7 or 8 or 9 even. You know, it just seems, and I say that, and yet I've met, I can't tell you hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who have done it and do it and introduce their kids to this film. And then I consider them to be far too young to digest something like this. So I don't know.
But they said they watch them all the time in kind of movies.
Yeah, some of them, yeah. Not only ours, but even more disturbing.
Yeah, I love zombie movies, yeah.
The Walking Dead's on every, you know.
Yeah, so that, like I said, it's a new generation.
The Walking Dead's a family show. Our family sits around and watches it.
Yeah, but it's still,
It's a family show, yes.
still equally as violent. A lot of the scenes
It is violent, but it's acceptable.
Everybody's doing it now. I mean, you know, when we did Dawn, the only thing that surpassed that was night in terms of gore and maybe for some people distasteful films and films. Now you got come on. How many damn zombie films do people come up and tell us about every day that we were in a convention? Everybody's got a zombie film. Yeah. Everybody's got a zombie film. Everybody's producing a zombie. Wild zombie. She's doing a zombie film. Somebody else just gave me a zombie. Zombie girl with yokai. At the gym of the day. Zombie girl. I get one, at least 2 at every convention I go to. Somebody goes up, and it's been a zombie film. I hear about them all the time. People are producing them by the dozens every year. And so I mean, who's going to be offended by The Walking Dead at this point? You know, it's ingrained in our society, and I think isn't there something else? They just did the huge movie with
World War Z.
World War Z, and what was the other? There was another huge. You remember, guys? Another. Huh?
I Am Legend?
What?
I Am Legend.
Yeah, I Am Legend was close. Yeah. Right, exactly. I'm sorry. I mean, just close.
Yeah, jump in there.
Yeah.
Most fun part, they can,
Coming to work. I'm serious because, yeah, we worked with, well, Sharon and I worked on the whole film.
Yeah, I mean, it was every day we went
Ken,
to work,
of
all we
course,
did was
was
laugh.
an actor, but we were crew.
Yes.
And, you know, my first thought was, I want to get a job working on Dawn of the Dead. And, you know, I did like other people. I put together my resume, I brought it into town. George happened to be there the day I walked in with my resume. I didn't even know what he looked like. And, you know, he sat me down and we talked for about 20 minutes. And I thought, wow, I just met George Romero. I mean, you know, like I was 22, going on 23. And the most exciting part of it was like, there's this feature film in town, it's Dawn of the Dead. I was all about horror and zombies since I was a kid. I mean, I like drama too, but, you know, I was a filmmaker, just getting out there, just finished school. And, you know, a week later I get a call, you're hired to be a camera crew. And I was like, I'm on Dawn of the Dead. I'm working on Dawn of the Dead. So especially the first month, like going to work was so exciting because like everything was new for all these other people and we were all excited about working together and the chemistry was there. And so every day was like a big party. And, you know, we were working, and it was like you could feel the energy in the air. And then George would walk in, and Mike Hornick, the cinematographer, and you know, these guys were doing what they did besides us when, you know, sometimes I didn't really meet Jim on the set. I met Jim when we started doing conventions and we've all become friends in one form or another. I always saw Ken on the set. You know, we'd be talking about, like, right after some zombies had been bloodied all over the floor, I'm talking to Ken about metaphysics over in the corner. It had nothing to do with blood on the floor or zombies biting people. But there'd be days when, you know, we'd be like off camera. The actors would be doing what they'd be doing, the zombies would be doing what they were doing, and it'd be blood all over the place. You know, we had a cleanup crew just to clean up the blood. So, I mean, like, when you're there and you're experiencing it, it's like exhilarating. It was exhausting because, you know, the days were endless. You know, we had Sunday off most of the time. And we had 1 week off around Christmas because the mall had to put up its Christmas decorations and sales and all those things. But otherwise, we worked, you know, from the beginning of November until like the end of February, pretty much straight through. And it was nonstop, but it was just a roller coaster ride of endless proportions.
It was real weird because you show up, I was only there at the mall for 2 nights, but you show up there just after the mall closes, you go in this room and you sit around in this giant room before hundreds of zombies. And this is before, you know, zombies were even popular. Everybody's got blood all over the place. And then somebody would run in, okay, I want you follow me, and then something would go. And then they'd come back, and then it just went on like that all night long, and just it was very surreal having just being in a room with hundreds of zombies before zombies.
My situation, I guess, was a little different because I didn't get really involved with anybody else. Because I worked with Tom on makeup for about a 2-week period for head casting and other things like that until I got on set. And that was it. And that was at the airport. That's where my ship came in. So I was at the airport and it's Wonderland. I'm in my early 30s. I've been working in theater and I was a starving artist in Pittsburgh. And I thought, man, there's cameras, there's lights, and there's craft services. There was a wagon that had food. Tom Speedy just did an article in Warzone magazine about this effect for cutting the top of my head off with the helicopter blade. And there, in that, was a picture I had not seen 35 some years later, I had not seen that picture. It had, some of the ones with me laying down, but there was one of me after the shot, and I'm in the airport building eating a potato chip. And to me, that kind of summed it up, it was a combination of, man, this was really exciting, but I was really a hungry, starving artist at the time. It was a great experience. It was a great experience.
And, just for those who don't know, some of you do know, like I wasn't supposed to, act, be a zombie. I was supposed to be crew. And, I've been a horror lover forever. And one night we're waiting for the actors to come out on the set, and we've got the lights set, cameras ready. And George was standing next to me, and he was always very approachable, but I wouldn't bother him, especially if he was reading the script. But for whatever reason, something occurred to me. Like, hey George, I'd really like to play a zombie. This kind of came out of my mouth. I don't even know why I said it. And he said, go upstairs and see what they have. And upstairs was the other part of the mall, the community room where we met each night to get ready to go to work. And there was one person upstairs, an actor named John Amos, who was in the film, played Martin, he was a fine actor himself. And I said, John, George said, come up and see what you have. And there was like, it was one of those things you can't help but remember. He had one makeup light on. He was basically guarding the room. And he pulls this machete out of the darkness into the light, and they had a hole cut into it for his head. He was supposed to do it the next night. And I said, well, you're supposed to do that, and I can't take that away from you. He said, no, I'm really burned out. Like, I've done all these zombies, played all these other parts. He said, go ahead, do it. And that part was non-union. So 24 hours later, I'm like creaming myself. Because I'm like, hey, I'm going to get to do this. Tom Savini and I set up the gig where, I knock him off the bike, he kicks me in the chest, I go on the floor, I get up, and wham, hits me in the head with a machete. And I'm in like dreamland. So like, I guess to answer that question before, that was fun. Because I couldn't see, because I used to wear glasses, I wear contacts now. So I couldn't see where I was going. But I knew where to go. So like, the whole thing worked, and like when we were done, I went right back to work. Like an hour and a half later, I went right back to work. I put on my drip stuff, took off my costume, still had the makeup on. Went home that night, early in the morning. By the time I got home, it was early in the morning. And I went over and I was sitting at home and said, I kissed my mom. Hey, I'm home, everything's cool. She looks up and said, oh, okay, fine. I forgot I had blood on my face, makeup. And it's just like, you got yourself. Mom really does what I look like. But like the whole experience, all that time, it was like magical, Beatles, magical mystery. Because no matter what day it was always something else going on. Like, people come out, like Mike was saying, there's all these zombies. We'd have really huge days, whether it be dozens and dozens of people. And then we have those nights where there's like two guys who come in to break a window at the mall or do something. It seems like there's so many people going on at the same time, but the way George edited it, right? And then people will be dressed up like zombies, you need to go. And Grips would all be like standing, we going, good zombie, bad zombie. Well, Grace, oh, that was good, that's good. We'd all be rating them. And then we'd say, once they actually did their part, we'd rate them again. So that was really good. And then by the time I got to do mine, I decided I had to have this gaping mouth, look really creepy, like I was really hungry. Because that was really the greatest. So I figured to create something. I really wanted to like go all out, but I wanted to look like I was dead. I wasn't too animated. And George kind of like let it loose, like let us kind of do our own thing. And those are all my own clothes. I still have a jacket. Okay. So I actually got an offer from someone for 3,000 euros. And I was in Germany in November. I said, that's too low. Because this is like the only one. We can't manufacture this on an assembly line. So like, and so also what's best about it is, it's still popular. And we get to come here, and we get to meet new people again. And so the whole thing becomes like new all over again, like a recharge.
Yeah, this question's for Ken. I've seen every version on that box set, and I've looked on YouTube. I've always heard there's an alternate ending where you take your own life at the end. Is that true?
No, that's false.
Okay.
that question always comes up and never happened. It was considered, George and I talked about it, and we decided that it was better to have nothing than gaming for flying no, she's supposed to put her hands through the blades anyway, so that no, neither of those things happen. And they tested gave them because the same dummy they used for bully the Klansmen. They used the game in the very end there. They tested the blades and see how it would work. They never shot. I think I guess that this whole, as I was talking to you guys earlier, this whole thing's been a big adventure for all of us. You know, for 35 years, 36 years, this film has taken us places we never thought we gave careers to a lot of us. Didn't have careers. It helped. It helped a lot of people. You know, a lot of the people who went on to do other films in terms of crew. I know Sharon did a lot of crew work for a lot of films, casting. Jim Pratt's been very busy. He's toured, and I'm sure that helped him in some of the films he's done. And he's also benefited, and as well as Mike. And I think everyone. It was a crazy adventure for us. We were very lucky and very. We were all very just young and wild, you know. So it was no big deal to work an extra hour, an extra 2 hours, or 5 hours. It was no big deal to lift something, to take a fall, to do something that maybe people today might say, either call a stunt person or call in someone else to do it. I want money to do that, or I'm not going to do that. Back in those days, we said, hey, let's just do it. Yeah, absolutely, let's go for it. Remember the guy, there was a guy, and I think I've said that some of these stories it's been 36 years, so I'm not sure, we're just repeating old hash at this point. But matter of fact, I'd really like to talk politics for a while, but that's not going to hold you. So, remember that guy that was in the bathing suit? That guy who died recently? Yes. There was a guy that was a zombie. And we started shooting the parking lot scene of all the zombies coming towards the mall. And that was on a Friday afternoon or Saturday. Saturday. And we had Saturday, it was like 70 degrees, 60 degrees, 65 degrees. The next day, they had to come back to continue shooting. But this one guy had a towel on his shoulder and a pair of swimming trunks. And he was a zombie. He was a very heavy guy. The next day, it took him to drop down to freezing. And this guy had to come out. He came out there. And it was so cold that we were running out, Galen, Scott, myself, David, we were running out through the scene to run in and get by the heaters inside real quick and warm our hands and that kind of thing to warm up. And we were only out there for short periods of time just to shoot and come back, run back in. This guy stayed out there the entire time and he started to turn a bluish color. And I asked him, I said, listen, do you want to come in? Do you want to, a blanket or something? You know, because he was really, I think he had to fall in the fountain in that cold air that day as well.
Method
and hey, I'm telling you. So I asked him, I said, do you want to come in? And you know what he said? He said, oh no, I love being a zombie. I don't want to move, I'm doing this. And he was as dedicated as anyone I've ever met. I'll never forget that gentleman. He just died. How long ago, Sharon? Do you know?
I think
a couple years.
The gray suits on, he just passed away.
Yeah, the gray suits on. Right. That was still alive?
Yeah.
Oh, so he's still alive. Sorry.
No.
I saw him in a hearse.
Yeah.
But he passed away a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's been gone for a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
Frank, the gray suit on.
They just, Frank, that's right. I know Frank.
2 years.
I know Frank used to live here sometimes. Yeah. Pittsburgh, especially at the one in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, we have lost a couple folks along the way, and they still stay in our memory too.
David Crawford. David Early. I'm sorry, David Crawford.
David Early. Well, they were in the scene together.
David Crawford was in the scene with Early. I'm sorry, David Early. I'm sorry, David Early. David Early, who you know, another guy who got some other film work after Dawn of the Dead, and he did. And
Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs, and he did a few other things.
A lot of theater.
Yeah, a lot of theater, and he worked. So that was pretty good.
That was what you said about people coming back when it got really cold.
Yeah.
That was true. But and I'm not trying to offend your memory, but what happened was we had weekend scenes with like 100 people, 100 zombies, lots of zombies, just dozens and dozens of zombies. And it was in the 70s. It was like the first weekend in November. So, because we didn't have those same weekend scenes, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, the rest of the week, we were doing individual scenes. Those same people had to come back the weekend next.
So it's looking next to the
Dressed the same. So the temperature was like 78, because I was keeping a diary. This was like November 2nd. Like I have a stupid memory because I wrote the stuff down. Because I was so excited about being there. I was writing details. Week later, like, first week we're all like in short sleeve shirts, jeans, or shorts, whatever. It's really warm. Week later, I'm wearing a down coat, long pants, long underwear. It's really cold outside. Vaseline on my face, the whole thing. These people are coming back and they had been wearing like shorts, t-shirts. Women were wearing halter tops. They had to come back the same, dressed the same. And not one person complained about the cold.
I did. It was freaking cold in Pittsburgh. I'm telling you right now. It was cold. The snow, we got snowed in one night. And remember that night we got
on the roof.
Oh, please. Oh, come on. Oh, God. It was so cold. I don't know. Great. I guess it's a great time to shoot a film. Remember down in the basement of the basement of the
Lake Image.
what do they call those? The complex. Well, the first attack. Down the basement when we broke into the cinema building. Yeah, we break into the bottom of that place. That was a cold. I mean, we were all in between shots by the heaters, just trying to warm ourselves up. It was cold in Pittsburgh. It was brutally cold. One night we didn't have. It snowed so much we couldn't get any cool air. I asked Richard. I said, "Well, it's going to be about 9." It's going to be about 1 o'clock in the morning, man. When we have lunch, he said, "You're having it now with cookies and coffee. You can't get anybody in." You guys remember that?
Yeah, I think we had 13 inches of snow.
Yeah.
We got to our car, but we couldn't get
We
snow.
couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, we couldn't get home.
I just want to throw in one quick thing. A few years back, we did a show in Maryland. It was cast from Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Diary of the Dead.
In Maryland, or Horrifying.
And George was there, and I have to say, there were 2 big rooms just full of folks who were in George Romero film.
Oh, yeah.
And I went from one room to the other, and I said, each one of these films has a following, and each one of these actors here is, somebody special now, because George Romero had this idea some time back that he was going to make a movie, and he was going to follow that movie with another movie, the trilogy, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, and then the 4th one in the trilogy, and the 5th one. Yeah, and I thought, this man has spawned. He is the godfather of us all. And we all owe him such a debt. And he's such a great man, and such a gracious man. I just wanted to acknowledge that.
What would it be without this guy? What would it be without this guy? If George didn't make Night of the Living Dead, and he didn't go on this journey, where would we be in terms of people who wanted to do something?
There'd be no Walking Dead.
Would there be walking? Would everyone doing them in their basements now? Would there be, I mean, would there have been the craze that it is now? I'm not sure, because you have the vampires, True Blood. You have what was the other one with my God, werewolves with
Twilight?
not Twilight.
Twilight, yeah.
Right. But I mean, they have a following. They have, you know, they're kind of werewolves are hot. I mean, they're really, some are really hot. But I'm telling you, Robert told me about what was happening in their numbers and that kind of thing. Really impressive, impressive. And so I guess True Blood as well, because they continue to pump out vampires. There's something coming out of vampires now, isn't it? They're previewing something new about vampires, some new series or something.
Strange.
Yeah, they're coming out again. Vampires. So I'm just wondering what would happen. What would have happened had not George made Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, or Day of the Dead? Would we still have this zombie craze? Would Walking Dead exist? Would the zombies have to come from somewhere? I mean, without George, and I'm not, you know, I don't want to just say, you know, like, you know, just George, but it's true. It's absolutely true. Without him developing Night of the Living Dead, and without Dwayne Jones doing such a wonderful job in that film, and it being, I mean, there were no black leading men except for Sidney Poitier in Lilies of the Field in those days. There were no black leading men there, and this guy and George and the popularity of that film started this craze, and George was probably able to finance Dawn of the Dead because of the success, at least artistically, of Night of the Living Dead. And so if George never got together with those guys in Pittsburgh, with the 50 producers, and he put in $50 a piece or whatever, how the hell he got the day financed? If he hadn't taken that low-budget film and gotten this guy that could really carry it, because Dwayne Jones was certainly excellent in it, and he carried it, and everyone, I always say that he became a hero because everyone who watched it in those days. I don't know if you guys go back that far. Maybe some guys go back that far a little bit, but Night of the Living Dead was what really introduced them to George Romero, to the zombie craze. But everybody in those days, when they saw Night of the Living Dead, they cheered for Dwayne Jones to make it. He's got to survive. Somebody's got to get out of this. This horrific thing where people are digging into burning cars and eating people's guts and that kind of, who ever heard of such a thing? This guy's gonna make it. At least he'll get out of here. And Dwayne opens the door, and you think he's in sunlight, bright blue sky, birds are singing, the rescue's coming, and they shoot him through the eyes, right between the eyes. And the whole world took a huge sigh of depression and sorrow. And that ending, that film, that creative work by not only Dwayne Jones, but all the rest of the cast, but George Romero, and those people who got together to make it, has led us to the point that we have The Walking Dead, we have Z, we have everybody probably in this room making a zombie film in the basement, you know? You know what I mean? We've got this, and it all comes from that, man. And I think we're just fortunate. We're fortunate first of all, to be in the one that made the most money, that's the most popular, that has had legs. I guess all of them have had legs, but this one really did. But I thought Day of the Dead was going to explode. I thought it was just going to break all kinds of records. It didn't. This one has, and we were fortunate, very fortunate to be a part of it, because it's been, I mean, you know, we've been, you know, it's been so successful for us in terms of the people we've been able to meet, people we've been able to talk to. We've appeared before hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. My first show was Fangoria in New York. You know, I didn't know there was a dealer's room. I didn't know anything about this. There were conventions, and I found out, you know, through Fangoria, and I did one. That was Fangoria, And then Scott called me to do Chiller. I did Chiller. I didn't even know. I said, what do you do, Scott? He said, you bring pictures. They don't provide them for you? No, you bring pictures. I don't have any pictures. I want the greatest pictures you ever saw in your life, maybe 3 or 4. We hung up a little poster in the back of us on the tent, and that's what we did. And I forgot about it. I went back because I was a working actor. I had nothing. I had no. Fine, this is a nice little thing. I forgot about it until I got into the restaurant business and started going broke and needed money to away. And then we found it again. But it was this. I've met thousands upon thousands of people. I've been honored to meet them. I've been blessed to have people who adore me, who got me Shaun of the Dead. You know, I mean, they use my name for, these guys are huge fans of mine. I couldn't, things that just happen that sometimes don't happen for every actor. There are many actors that don't get these opportunities, don't get this kind of adornment from fans. And I can only just say that it was a blessing, and I'm happy to have it.
I'm Neil Jones from WithoutYourHead.com, and let's hear it for the panel here for John.
Thanks, guys. Sorry, I'm going to keep it to 5 minutes next time.
About your head.